Welcome back. I haven't done a news of the day video yet, just because I was waiting to see if there was going to be some agreement between the players and the owners, and apparently it's close. They're still talking about it. There's going to be likely a ratification process over the next couple of days. Bob McKenzie had a bunch of details. Elliot Friedman had a bunch of details. I will do that video after this one. I just wanted to do something kind of fun, kind of quick. Go through the 8 series that we know we're going to have for the play-ins and where I'm leaning. Now, I'm going to do official previews once we know for sure who's playing and who isn't. If any players are going to opt out, that could change things completely. So I don't want to do the official previews with all the graphics and all that until, and by graphics I just mean the thumbnail, until we know for sure who's playing. Because again, if let's say Patrick Laine goes, well, I'm not going to play, and I'm just using that as an example, or Johnny Gaudreau says, well, I don't feel safe coming back, that changes those series completely. Now, in all likelihood, most players are going to come back and play, but we'll see, right? So we'll start things off, and I didn't go in any particular order with these. This is, of course, West. This is East. Calgary against Winnipeg. My leaning is towards Winnipeg. Now, the key thing for Winnipeg, I think, is going to be Hellebuck outperforming likely Riddick, right? It's probably going to be Riddick in the Calgary net. And if the Winnipeg Jets do pull that off, do we have questions in Calgary regarding what they have to do with their goaltending going forward? If Winnipeg loses, is that perfectly fine? And then Jets fans just go, well, we'll see what we do in the draft lottery. Because again, for the Flames, while the draft lottery would be an interesting part too, I think Flames fans want more. They want to see some progression into the playoffs and past the first round, past that round of 16 we're going to see. So I like Winnipeg, but it's close. It's pretty close for me. Nashville and Arizona, honestly, I'm hedging towards Nashville right now, but again, once we see how things are going to be played out, and in all reality, this might be a good opportunity for Taylor Hall, and with all this time off, it's got to be a good opportunity for Kessel, and that's a question mark as well. Like, is Phil Kessel maintaining game shape right now? Or is Phil Kessel not? We know that Phil Kessel's had issues with motivation in the past, and whether it's real or it's made up or whatever it is, that perception's out there about Phil maybe not taking it as seriously as others, maybe not staying in the same shape as others. So that would have a huge effect on whether or not Arizona's going to be able to overcome Nashville. I do like Nashville's chances just a little bit better. So, yeah, Winnipeg and Nashville. Which is 2 Pacific teams losing to 2 Central teams so far. So you've got Central Division Chicago and Pacific Division Oilers. I can't see how the Oilers lose this one. But here's where it gets interesting. So Winnipeg's a number 9 seed, right? Nashville's got home ice. Edmonton's got home ice, and I say home ice, with the quotes, because there won't be a home ice advantage. And when people say, well, if those games are in Edmonton, that's a huge advantage. Nah. The only advantage I have is knowing the bounces off the boards, and by the time we actually start playing these games, teams are going to all have it figured out. There's no fans in the arena. The ice size is the same throughout the NHL, so home ice isn't really a thing. And depending on how the bubble works, I'm pretty sure the players are all going to be housed in hotels. They're not going to be going home, so there won't be an advantage that way either. So, yeah. I like Edmonton's chances, not because they have home ice, but because with Draisaitl, McDavid, and just the team that they have, it feels like Edmonton's on their way up. And for Chicago, another challenging year. And if there's a team that probably could use that number 1 overall draft pick, it is Chicago. And I know people hate hearing it. I hate saying it sometimes. But hey, it's true. Chicago, Taves is probably looking at his best days in the rearview mirror. We know Keith is. Kane is still in his prime. We don't know if DeBrincat's going to be able to get back to the goal totals he had last season. This year was a bit of a setback, so we just don't know. So I'm taking Edmonton. And again, we'll see if these change when I do the official previews. Official previews, I'll have the players on the board. We'll have all of the stats on the board, all of the necessary stats. This is just a quick go over. Vancouver and Minnesota, again, I like the higher seed. And this is where things are going to be unpredictable. There's no way that all 3 of these teams that are higher seed are going to win. It's not going to happen. Somebody's going to get knocked out. Somebody's going to have a disappointing run. And we'll see. I like Vancouver's young core. I like what they have going on. I got a few more Canuck posters today. I like how that Canuck wall is looking in the corner. It's looking pretty darn solid. And I am excited about this young team that they've got put together. But Minnesota shouldn't be written off. And just because Kaprizov isn't going to be allowed to play, which is, again, not 100% guaranteed, and this is why I can't officially do a preview, but if Kaprizov's not going to be allowed to play, that is a huge downer for Minnesota. And he's 23 years of age. If he decides to stay in the KHL much longer, how old is he going to be when he comes over? So that's a question I had as well. I think he wants to come over. I think he ends up signing a contract. But since the next NHL season likely doesn't start until late December, early January, he probably goes back to the KHL and plays for at least the first few months. He'll just play with an NHL out, I would think. But again, I like Vancouver's chances just based on a few things. Again, when we get into the deep dive, I have no problem going into why I'm favoring Vancouver in that, because that's unusual. Not only have I never in the history of this channel picked the Canucks to go to the playoffs, which is what I'm predicting here, but I certainly would never have predicted them to win a round against another team, so because I haven't had the chance. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2015. So, Carolina and the Rangers. Well, I like the Rangers. I know the Rangers are the lower seed. I know Lundqvist's numbers against Carolina are fantastic. It's not Lundqvist, because I don't think Lundqvist starts. I think it's going to be Shesterkin, and I think that while Carolina has a really good young team, I just see the Rangers taking them. And I think that's going to be a popular opinion. When I do the previews, I will also include the results of the polls that have been running on the channel for well over a month now, I would think. And I haven't closed them down or anything in relation to who people think are going to win each round. So if you go over to the community tab of the channel, you can track down all the polls I'm doing for awards and for the play-in rounds as well. I just haven't done an awards video yet. I'm trying to push that back because, again, we don't know what's going to happen, what may not happen. Might be nice to have that in my back pocket. Columbus and Toronto. You know, I have to say, based on defense and goaltending together, looks like everybody's healthy for Columbus. I like Columbus's chances, but this series is going to be close. This series, I think, goes 5 games. And I don't know that it necessarily matters who does or doesn't come in and play. You've got to think Matthews will fight everything off and he'll be fine and he'll go in and play. But honestly, I still think I'm barely giving Columbus an edge in that. And again, when I do the full-on previews, I have no problem getting into the nuts and bolts of that. Hopefully we can do that next week. I'm really hoping next week we get a good idea of which players might opt out and which ones are staying in. Because we've heard the reports. I've reported on what's being said where players are saying privately and anonymously, basically, well, we're not sure we want to come back, which is fine. But, and I think that's part of the reason why they're looking at hub cities both being in Canada to try to entice players to come back into the safest possible circumstance. So yeah, I like Columbus there. Florida and the Islanders, that to me is a total toss-up. But I can't go against Barry Trotz. I can't. I just can't. I can't see myself looking at this series and saying Florida's necessarily going to win. Do I want them to win? Yes. I do cheer for Florida at times. And I do enjoy seeing the Florida Panthers do well. And so for me, you know, this is I think going to be a good series. I do favor the Islanders. This is one where I want to be wrong. There are series on this board where I want to be wrong. I would love to see Arizona take out Nashville. That'd be a fun series. Carolina beating the Rangers would be fine. I'm not going to be cheering for anybody in this series. I'm just going to enjoy great hockey. Pittsburgh and Montreal. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I know we keep seeing, oh, does Montreal want the number 1 pick or do they want to beat Pittsburgh? Can they beat Pittsburgh? If everything falls their way, do they still have enough to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in a 5-game series? Maybe. So again, do I expect them to go this way? No. Do I reserve the right to change my mind based on who actually shows up to training camp and what's actually going to happen? Yes. Yes. And also, for a deep dive, I will look at all the numbers. I'll look at the team's record against one another during the regular season. And that may make me second guess some things as well. So this is just kind of an off the cuff. Which teams do I think are going to win? And now, if you ask me which of these 16 teams is most likely to be able to go on a run, so one of these 16 teams that can go on a run and go to a Stanley Cup Finals. In the West, that's a tough call. We're overdue for a Canadian team going to the finals. So I would not be entirely surprised if the Oilers did it. And in the East, I mean, Pittsburgh would be the sexy pick. But if the Rangers can find that mojo they had going, not at the end of the season, but that they had going about 10 games before the end of the regular season, when we didn't know it was the end of the regular season coming up, I don't think you want to underrate what the Rangers can do. But again, honorable mention to Pittsburgh here, honorable mention to Nashville there, who met each other in the Stanley Cup Finals in 2017. It's going to be interesting, so we'll see what happens. And again, just waiting around going, all right, when is Bob going to... Oh, he's not going to announce anything, is he? No, probably not. And I'm definitely changing things in the Canuck corner because it's got to be more... there were a couple things I had to change with the new posters and everything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means there'll be 1, 2, 21, 20. There'll be 22 Canuck players, past and present, on that wall. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, not a deep dive. The deep dives are coming, though, probably, I'll say, next week. Because, again, I want to allow myself the ability to see, okay, who's going to show up and who isn't. Because we may see a big name that doesn't show up. But thank you guys so much for all your support. And it does look like we're going to get hockey this summer. I know there are people torn on it, but it looks like it should happen. I will talk to you again soon.